true NIL is an endorsement. We've worked with Creighton men's basketball, Stephen Ashworth, worked with Husker volleyball, brands like Marriott, Nissan, Racing Cane. 8 weeks to build a company from concept to pitch. By the time I get to my car, she emails me back and it's like, hey, can we hop on a call tomorrow? But then it was like the year of doom. Nothing was really moving.
There's no broke like Entrepreneur broke. Hey everybody, Brian Lee here from Prairie Founders Club, and today we have a really exciting podcast episode. I have with us Val Shafak of NIU, which is a sports marketing company that connects athletes with brands. So welcome, Val.
Yes, thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
So really excited to hear your story. So you're a success story that's come out of Omaha. You started a business that's kind of taken advantage of this new sports marketing wave that's opened up in the last 3 years. Started at Creighton University. Just love to hear. Let's just start with, what does your business do, and how do you serve people?
Yeah, so our business kind of came out of the NIL boom, right? And had 8 weeks to build a company from concept to pitch in a entrepreneurship class at Creighton. It was taught by Nathan Preheim. And that was a wonderful opportunity because, it kind of put us students in a position that we hadn't been in before, kind of forced us to think outside of the box and create something that, either hadn't been done yet or, evolve an industry that we were interested in. And I wasn't interested in NIL. I have friends who, played D1 basketball at, Gonzaga and USC. And, they were telling me about all the crazy stuff that was happening. I was like, I don't want to be in it. But somehow, some way, just got looped in, and ever since been building NIU.
You mentioned somebody, Nathan Preheim, who's kind of a legend in the Omaha startup industry. So this is great. So this kind of goes back to when the startup scene started in Omaha, Nebraska. In the late 2000s. It's great to see the fruits of this effort. But can you tell us who are some of the athletes and maybe some of the brands we might recognize that you represent?
Yeah. Stephen, if you're, a Creighton fan, Stephen Ashworth, we've worked with Creighton men's basketball, women's basketball, worked with Husker volleyball on some partnerships. We're doing some stuff down south, with SMU right now. And then brands like Marriott, Nissan, Racing Canes, Day Spring Bank, Coal Credit Union, Finbo, the likes of those.
So for people that don't know, the opportunity that arose a couple of years back, laws changed to where athletes could start getting rewarded for their own name, image, and likeness, which opens up the opportunity for brands to be able to promote their brand through partnerships and things like that. Can you give us some examples of some ways that brands might partner with athletes? Yeah,
absolutely. So a lot of, I always like to say, because I think people get confused or they're unsure about what an NIL is. It's an endorsement most of the time. True NIL is an endorsement. Now we've seen, the one side where it's, pay for play, and the other side where it's a true endorsement. But NIL was originally designed to be an endorsement. So your favorite basketball players endorsing Runza, or doing a post on Runza, or, we're doing an activation or something of that sort.
That's great. Well, let's go back to the beginning. How did this get started? You were a student at the university. You were associated with Nathan, who's a great resource. So how did let's take us back to the beginning, and how did it start?
Yeah, so it was, wow, it's crazy how time flies. It's been 3 years since I took that class. That is crazy. Yeah, so it was spring semester of 2023. And I, decided to take an entrepreneurship class because, I've always been an entrepreneur, always wanted to be an entrepreneur. And, the first day of the class, Nathan gives us this challenge because he was the adjunct at that time. He was teaching it with another tenured professor. And he gives us this challenge. Okay, you guys are going to build a company in 8 weeks, starting today, which is like, goodness, how do you even do that? Know? Yeah. But then, from there, we, had a couple weeks of just understanding what it means to start a business. And then from there, we really got the opportunity to be practical. So there was a day where we had to put, 11 ideas on a whiteboard. So we did. Then we had to narrow those down to 5. And when we narrowed those down to 5, we started to go into groups. And those groups were the companies, quote unquote, that would be started in the class. So I originally was actually part of a bagel startup. And the reason being is Nathan made us take the strengths find. Well, they're not strengths finders, but it's like an entrepreneurial test to see if
Like
you're a
an assessment.
rainmaker. Yeah, assessment, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So to see if you're a rainmaker, a conductor, or an expert, and I am a conductor according to that. So from there, I was in that bagel group, and the NIL group needed an extra conductor. So I was just like, all right, like I'll move over. And I kind of got forced to move over there too by Nathan, but that's like in the best way possible. So it was
Right.
just kind of a wonderful opportunity.
Sure. Well, let's fast forward to the end. So this has been 3 years now, and even for such a hot industry as NIL, my understanding is you still went through the typical entrepreneurial curve, which included the valley of death. So kind of give us a brief summary of the path to now.
Oh my goodness, that first year was tough. It was like, so for me, my faith is really important in my life. I'm a Christian, and for like the entire time we were building, starting out, I was like, God, is this really for me? And like, I feel like the initial booms, like we got a partnership with Raising Cane's, and then we got a partnership with Nissan right after that. And I was like, great, cool. Like, okay, these are good confirmations. And like those partnerships went on, but then it was like the year of doom. I felt like in despair because nothing was really moving, or we were getting like we had a couple bad situations with another partnership opportunity we had, and it was not a good look at all. So I struggled in that first year big time, but I learned a lot about what it takes to really be an entrepreneur. And I think a lot of times, if you look up entrepreneurship on Instagram or TikTok, you see, people flashing their Rolexes and Amexes and going on trips and whatever the case is. And
Right.
I learned that it was not that. It is not that. That comes at the very end of the struggle.
Right.
I mean, beyond down the line. So
my favorite meme that's going around right now is there's no broke like entrepreneur broke, like employed broke.
Yeah, seriously. No, but like seriously though, like it was hard. It's like why are you even doing this? But I've always wanted to build something that would sustain me through life, and NIU has given me the opportunity to do that thus far. So I'm grateful for it.
Let's talk about some of your first wins. It sounds like, Raising Cane's and some big names came early. How did you get those connections? And were you nervous going into that? Like, what was the closing process? How did you feel about those?
Yeah. So the Raising Cane's deal was crazy. I've told the story like 1,000 times, but it just never gets old. We had been trying to find out who the marketing person at Cane's was for a very long time. And, one night, I was a president of a club at Creighton called Quasa. And I was in Harper, which is our business school, or the business building at Creighton one night. And I saw a friend of mine just talking to these finance bros about how there's this platform that Creighton students have access to be able to connect to almost anyone they want in the country at any company. So that was a great opportunity for me to be like, okay, like, let me see, how do I get into this? So I got into it, and I found the lady we've been stalking on LinkedIn for weeks. And I decided, we had already made a pitch ready to go, like for whenever she got back. It's always better to stay ready than to have to get ready, right?
Mm-hmm.
So sent her an email, said a prayer, and like I left campus. It's about a 3-minute walk from the business school to my car at this point. By the time I get to my car, she emails me back and is like, hey, can we hop on a call tomorrow? I said, yes.
Wow.
Within 24 hours or 48 hours, basically, we got that deal closed. So
wow.
It was incredible. And then Nissan came because I worked in athletic marketing at Creighton. I worked with the women's closely capturing video and whatnot for the different teams. And I brought this opportunity the Canes opportunity first actually to the women's basketball team, and Jordan Reese, who was coach at the time, and Carly Berger, who I love dearly, really supported me in that process. And then John McHugh on the men's basketball side as well kind of helped me put this deal together. But on the women's basketball side, one of the coaches had a connection at Nissan, and they were like, "Hey, like I'm going to connect you with him, and I want you to go meet him." And I went to meet him, and he was interested, and then we made him a pitch and sold him on the deal.
Wow, what a whirlwind there that first couple of weeks. Sounds like
crazy. Yeah, it was insane.
So now you've got me curious. Entrepreneurs play all the roles at the beginning, whether that be operator, salesperson, marketer, accountant, etc. What are, like, in that role you're playing the sales role? Like, what are some of the roles you find yourself playing the most? What are some that you like more than others?
Yeah, I mean, so it's different, now not having the full team that I had. But just to give credit to my co-founder, Matt Mandolfo, and other co-founder, Sam Perkinson, too. Those two really helped kind of divvy up the process. I mean, Matt was more focused on operations. Sam was focused on deals. I was focused on the creative side, making sure, like, ideating how we'd execute partnerships. So just going out and getting new opportunities together. But yeah, it was a wonderful experience. I learned a lot through having that, but I always had people to kind of lean on for that. And now in this process, I mean, I still have people helping me on operations and on the legal side of things. But now it's helping me kind of outline, okay, what do I really want in people? So it's like, you need someone who can take care of your athletes really well. You need someone who can work with the brands and, execute what's being promised really well. You need someone who can come in and make sure that you're not burning all your cash. So yeah, stuff like that I've had to learn, but it's beautiful. It's a beautiful part of the process.
So I'm also curious too. I know that you've the size of your team is sort of varied. You got a little larger, got a little smaller. It's probably growing now. Talk me through that process and kind of what roles now, 3 years in, as you grow, will you be expanding into, and then kind of the process getting to where you are now?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I'll go take a step back. So when we started, it was just me and Matt. Matt was, COO essentially. I was the chief creative officer. And we then brought Sam Perkinson on. And at the time he became our, what was he at that time? He was our chief brand officer. No, he wasn't our chief brand officer. I forget what his title was. I'm not going to lie. I could LinkedIn it real quick, but, and then we brought on a guy named Landon Fogel, who super talented kid who's in direct school at Lincoln. It's our CIO to help us build our website and just some other stuff internally for us. Excuse me. But then, so that's how the team grew. But then Matt had to go to law school, and he brought in a gal named Kylie Karski, who I love dearly. She's one of my best friends, but has become one of my best friends. But she was overqualified for what we needed. But she jumped right in and helped kind of fill in that role and elevated us. I mean, she got us connected to our legal team and, just really made sure that we were at a place where we could grow effectively and with the right resources that we needed. So, yeah, then from there, everyone had a stake in the company. Matt and I had a majority originally, then Sam and I, and then this past summer, they transitioned out of the business. So I'm now the majority and actually sole owner of the company. I love them. It was wonderful. Wonderful in the sense that, there was no bridges burnt and we all love each other still. It was just the right time to separate. So now kind of just thinking through what the future looks like, really wanting to be able to build a team that is multifaceted, meaning, there's a sports marketing focus, on the agency side of the company, but then there's two other verticals we want to explore down the line. And as that develops, again, really, it's going to really be important to have someone who's on the athlete relations and university relations side, someone who is on, more of the brand side. And then, the tech side will come back in, and then a finance side will come in as well. So that's kind of where I'm looking at right now and trying to start trying to start to outline what, will be required.
Gotcha. You mentioned something that actually prompted my next question, the legal team. You're in an area that I assume has some amount of regulation and compliance, although it's sort of ambiguous at times. How much are you dealing with lawyers and compliance?
Pretty often, especially early on. Like it would be pretty often. It's nice to have my office is across the street from Creighton, and thankfully I know everyone at Creighton. So if I ever have questions, I can go to the compliance office, or I have friends at the law school who are studying this that can be helpful, or our legal team is always one call away as well. So often, also getting contracts done and executing stuff like that just to make sure that it's done well and effectively.
I could tell that program that you took at Creighton was very valuable for those connections. I mean, as someone trying to do this on their own, how are they going to find the legal contacts and also the professional contacts? That's a really good argument for that program. There's a lot of college programs that may not have as high of an ROI, but this one seems pretty good. So you're pretty happy with that?
Absolutely. Creighton was the best investment I've ever made in my life, and I will stand on that. That school changed my life. It gave me what I have today. It gave me the resources and the network to be able to go out and do some crazy things. So yeah, Creighton's the best.
Let's talk about some of your struggles, because we all know now that entrepreneurship is not all roses. What are some things you struggled with? Maybe what are some things you learned to overcome those struggles?
Yeah, it's not all Amexes and Rolexes. Entrepreneurship is very lonely. I think the biggest thing that I've learned, it's a process that most people don't understand, because most people won't ever go through it. So, you really have to find a strong community that you can count on and that you can go to in times of need, in times of needing support. I think that was one of the biggest things. But then also too, early on, we were young guys selling something that we no one really knew what it was, which is so funny because, again, it was just endorsements. So people can wrap their minds around it at times. So it's really interesting for us. Mm-hmm. But we weren't as polished as an Open Doors, or we weren't as, we didn't have a website for a month and a half and still got deals, but it just might have not seemed legit early on. It took us a long time. Well, not a long time. It took us about 5 to 6 months early on just to get everything established and, mm-hmm. Legal and stable and, good before we could start to be taken more seriously. But even then, we still went through some of those problems with people. I think the biggest thing was just having to trust the process and learn through the process and be patient, which is hard to do, especially when you get 2 big hits and it looks like everything is going, and especially when people on your team are expecting that. Mm-hmm. But the reality of entrepreneurship is you have to be patient. Is your best friend. Whether you like patience or not, patience is your best friend. But it's a beautiful thing. So.
I love that. You gave a great sales pitch for Prairie Founders Club when you mentioned community. That's kind of our goal, is to give the lonely entrepreneur a support network. So I'm excited to kind of get you involved with that as well. You also mentioned, I guess I'm curious to know where you see the future going. I know it's changing quickly, the landscape of NIL. I think it's my understanding that over the last year, they've now allowed universities to compensate athletes. Is that correct?
Yep.
So curious, how does that change your model, and what do you kind of see in the future?
It's a great question. So, again, really doubling down on the sports marketing focus, just because we're not just a bridge between brands and athletes. We come up with the entire campaigns as to what the athletes are doing. And how the brand is being activated in that. And you know what I mean? So it's not just functioning as an agent.
Sure.
However, I think with everything coming in house, schools still need to raise money. That's money. The money that they're paying these athletes is money that's being taken from their athletic operating budget. So if we can just, even if it's small amounts, even if it's $12, $20, $30, $50,000 a year, that we can get an athlete and help them kind of take that off their plate, it helps free up opportunities for them.
That makes a lot of sense. Speaking of the future, where do you see the company in the next few years? Like where do you hope it to be in, let's say, 3 years from now?
Absolutely. So, I'll start with physically because I've gotten to travel a lot because of NIU. And, Omaha is a phenomenal home base, but I would love to have operations on the West Coast, particularly in San Francisco, and then on the East Coast, particularly in New York. So really excited to, have the opportunity to go to those places and really just set up a hub down there. And then as well as, just building a new team, building a team that is able to execute at the level that I believe that company can get to. And I'm really excited to get that done, just taking it one step at a time. A big thing for me is just working on becoming a better leader, a more effective communicator, one day, one step at a time, so that, whenever I do have the opportunity to lead again, I can, build and encourage and empower people to keep building alongside me. That's
great. You also mentioned Open Doors, which is one of the inspirations here in Nebraska for a startup that's really done something. Along with Huddle, like what are some other local inspirations? And Nathan Preheim that did you draw on to kind of help
you? Local inspiration? Dang, that's a great question. Noddle Companies, which it's like, why is a real estate development company, inspiring? But like, I will shout these guys out till the day I die. Sam and Aaron Noddle. I love those guys. Those are my guys. They just pushed the envelope, the needle. Even their dad, Jay, I think they're just they go to different places and they see where things can be, and then they bring them here. And we need more of that in the city. And I'm really inspired by all the concepts that they create. We're working with them on a couple concepts right now. But Noddle Companies, I would say Dayspring Bank, me and the president of the bank have gotten really close. Derek Grandecker, that's one of my good friends. And it's good to see the innovation in the city and at least the desire for it. So him and I have a lot of those conversations. A guy named Ben Drickey of a company called Torchworks. He mentored me, before I got into all the sports and all that stuff, taught me how to, really be a high level thinker. And not just he owned a production company and was one of the best in the region, but we didn't just have conversations about film. We had conversations about excellence and what it takes to be a high level leader and what it takes to get to the place that no one has ever gotten to before. So yeah, several people, Jason Fisher, of Surreal Media Lab, Scott Hyder. There's so many names I could say, that have just poured into me. I have been poured into by this city more than I could have ever asked for. So I'm beyond grateful.
Well, that's great. Well, it sounds like you're an advocate for the region, and hopefully you maintain operations at least partially in the region moving forward.
Home base is always Omaha.
Well, this has been really great. So for Prairie Founders Club members, Val's actually going to break down a case study of his first 3 years, the different milestones, including that Valley of Death that we talked about. So for members, we're going to be following up on the prairiefoundersclub.com member site with the rest of it. But, Val, it was really great getting to know you and your story. It's really inspirational. I guess if people want to learn more about you and what you're up to, how can they connect with you?
It's great. Look me up on LinkedIn, Valerie Shafak, VALERY SHAFACK. And then just follow NIYOU.com, NI-YOU.com.
Awesome. Well, hey, thanks a lot, and can't wait to hear your case study coming up.
Thank you so much.